All right. Hey Jake, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing well. My first question actually came from I was poking around on your YouTube channel and you mentioned that you were a ride operator at Universal. And as an ex-Disney employee, I have to ask where you were a ride operator at.
Okay, so this is 20 years ago, 20
That's fine.
plus.
Yeah.
It was when there was a backdraft attraction in the lower lot, Universal Hollywood.
Oh, Holly. Okay, I was in Florida, so I
Sure.
wasn't from. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there was like it was just like basically like a fire show. You go in and there's a couple little fire effects, and then it's like three rooms. In the last room, there's like a big fire show, and like the barrels explode and everything. And so you got to keep your finger on the button the whole time. And if anybody puts their kid on the railing, you got to press emergency stop. Like yeah. I loved it. I love the whole theme park life. And it's actually, I love that you asked me that. I was thinking about my time at Universal so much while I wrote this movie. Have you
Oh,
ever read
really?
Stephen King's Joyland?
I have not.
It is very much, you probably would appreciate it. It's very much about working in a theme park, someone coming into the theme park world. And that plus my like summer and a half at Universal, like as a ride op and all the people that I met there were
Mhm.
so much in my head while I was writing this thing.
It's very funny because I literally last night got back from Horror Nights and watched Haunt Season this morning. And
Oh,
yes, it was very like on the moment for me. But I also in that same video, you say you don't like haunted houses. So I'm just kind of curious how you made what inspired you to kind of get Haunt Season going and writing in a haunted house.
sure. I'm very, very scared of haunted houses. They scare me. Like, I have to wait. When I go to Horror Nights, I'm going on Thursday. Like, when I go to Horror Nights, I have to weigh. I just basically want to be in the environment. I want to feel the streets. And I know there are some crazies running around with chainsaws on the streets too, but like, I love everything all decked out. I love all the theatrical smoke and everything. I love all of that. And I love walking through the beautiful sets that they build. I
Hmm.
just don't want somebody jumping out at me, and you can't avoid it. You can't, someone's gonna jump out at you. So like in this case, I wrote it because Steve, the guy who owns Realm of Terror, the haunted house that we shot in, he was the one who was like, "Let's do it. You make movies, I make everything." He's like an entertainer guy. He like builds this haunted house. He built the escape rooms. Like that's his like life. And like, let's bring our two things together and make an awesome horror movie. And I was like, dude, awesome. Slasher movie, let's go. And so I just wrote it based on his locations.
That's great. And are you going to Horror Nights in Florida or California?
California.
Okay. Okay. I did that once. I loved it. Um,
Yeah.
but it really was so funny because I came back from Horror Nights and when I was visiting friends, we also did an escape room and then they go to an escape room in the movie. And I was like, my life could have been I could have been murdered at a haunted house over the weekend. But
Yeah.
as an ex theme park employee, there's kind of like they mention it too, that it feels like college, that it feels like there's this Peter Pan mentality of like you never grow up because like you're surrounded by all these childlike things and everyone surrounding who's coming there is on vacation. So they're in a very different mindset than the people clocking in, clocking out. But it's hard to like lose that. And I was curious if you felt the film industry as a director and writer and editor kind of had a similar Peter Pan mentality of like never growing up. And yeah, I was just very curious.
Yeah, there is a certain just imagination and enthusiasm that
Mhm.
never leaves the people who participate in both of these things. Like the indie film community in Chicago, it's just like you want to be a part of telling a story.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's an engaging enough story that people kind of get lost in it and like you take them away for a second. That is like the origin of wanting to like tell whatever story you're telling, I feel like. And for
Mhm.
some people, it just never goes away. And it's the same for haunted house actors. It's the same
Mhm.
for anybody who engages in, like, even the escape room thing. You are building an experience that's going to take someone out of their life and put them in another place for a little while. And that is universal to all of this. And so I hadn't been through Steve's haunt when I wrote a movie in his haunt. And I wrote it about like ambitious creatives, like the people that I know, and it turned out to have a very good overlap with the people that he knew in the haunted house world.
Yeah.
And I love that you pointed that out. That's so astute. I love that.
I blame the years of turkey legs, handing out turkey legs at Disney World. It's just always front of mind. You are the writer, director, editor, and producer of Haunt Season. How was it balancing all of those different roles? Do you feel like one definitely took more time than the other? Or what was, it sounds crazy.
It is crazy. It's an absolute nightmare. The writing the writing is the probably the most fulfilling thing because you're starting from scratch. The directing is the thing that I take the most pride in because you're actually just shaping how every ultimate element comes in. Even though, like, you got somebody who's very good at lighting and shooting something doing that part, and an actor standing in front of the camera doing that part. Like, bringing it all together is so, so fulfilling. Producing is the worst. Producing is the absolute worst. It's all who can be where and when. It's all like, how much is that going to cost? What can we get it for? Is it like this place is too expensive? We need to find another place. Like, I wanted to do a whole thing where the lake house in the movie
Mhm.
used to be a motel, like a roadside motel. It had to do with the thematics of, like, again, a group of people who are temporary,
Mhm.
like the haunt is temporary. The every show that you're part of is temporary. The motel would be temporary too. So lake house vacation kind of
Mhm.
works, but that was only budgetary. Producing is the worst, and editing is a dream.
Yeah.
At that point, you can't do anything else. You just have what you have, and you just make the best of what you have, and then you're like, "Oh, look what we have! This is great."
Kind of going along the producing being a nightmare. Am I wrong in saying that all of the gore and like effects are practical? Like those were all visual effects, no
They're all
computer?
practical. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
so there is a computer element in
Oh, okay.
that. What I did, which I did a lot in our superhero web series too before
Mhm.
this, is like I would take a practical element. Our special effects makeup artists, Corey Ruby and Kyle Williamson, they would build whatever the weapon was going to interact with, right? Like
Mhm.
the arm that was going to get sawed through, or like the torso piece, or the neck piece. Like they would build these pieces, and then for the wide shots where the weapons actually interact with the people, I would just plate those, like blank plate,
Mhm.
get the weapon hurting the thing, then pull that out, put the actor in there, and then hit them with a bunch of blood, and then I would just like composite it together. So like all of the blood and weapon interaction is
Mhm.
practical, and then I
Mhm.
just added an actor on top of it.
And the bowling alley scene, I've heard that that was a nightmare.
That was it was an absolute nightmare because when I wrote it, I love that the haunt in the movie borders a family fun center because it does for real. Like, that's real life. Like, the haunted house is right next to this arcade, bowling alley, bar, mini golf place. Like, so the fact that, like, they're both forms of entertainment, one's just nastier than the other, like, was really what I wanted to address. So I wanted the horror to leave the haunt at the end and come into the family fun center. That was super important to me. And then once I found out that you cannot walk on those lanes on any of it without special shoes, or we all need to be wearing booties, and you can't use. Originally, she was going to be crushed with, or the killer was going to be crushed with a pin crusher, and that was just impossible. Like, I mean, especially on our budget, impossible. But that limitation led to a much more satisfying
Mhm.
conclusion for our villain, I feel like, because it's much more active for our protagonists. And that was all budgetary as well. And that one had no digital composite. That is just a dummy that Kyle and Corey put together, and we had one shot to hit it with a bowling ball, and we it was the best.
Wow. It looked very satisfying, I will say, as the viewer.
Thank you.
Um, when talking about like these haunted houses and horror movies in general, these are kind of like safe ways to be a little dangerous and like live on the edge a little bit, which I think is why we all kind of go gravitate toward them. But in haunt season, you take one of these safe, controlled environments and it actually becomes very dangerous. And do you think that that makes the film inherently like a little more unsettling because this could just be a haunted house gone wrong?
Yeah, I do. I mean, like, this is territory that's been this is not I'm like not the first person to set like a horror movie in a haunted house. I mean, Hell House LLC has the supernatural side taken care of, and Haunt, a movie that we just added season 2. No, Haunt is like a slasher that very much the people who come in are the targets.
Mhm.
But for most of our movie, it's the cast that's being targeted for their participation in the event itself. And
Mhm.
that was kind of my gateway in. And I think it's just, especially with our killers like ultimate motivations, I feel like it's so tragic for people who are so excited and genuine, who just want to be a part of something, to be punished for not being the right kind of participants in the
Mhm.
eyes of just one person, you know? Like that was such a brutal idea to me, and I really loved it once I realized like how brutal it could be.
Yeah, I think it also speaks to like a lot of ways that we try and like not I don't think you and I personally, but the way that people try and police fandoms and like police enjoying things. And I like that your film is very much anti that.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And that was in top of mind as well when we got to that end scene. And originally there wasn't the big speech that's in the movie
Mm.
now, but somebody like that I was letting read the script early was like, you have an opportunity here, like to really you can do the big speech and have it just be people nobody believes because they all are here for a good time. And I was like, dude, the best.
Yeah. It's so great. And the death count is pretty high in the movie. And you're the writer. Do you ever feel a little sad like killing off some of them? Did you try and like make some of your characters last a little bit longer because you liked hanging out with them?
Oh yeah. Actually, there was someone in the very first draft of the script died that does not die in the final movie. Like,
Oh.
like by the end, I was like, I can't do that to her. I cannot do that to her. And so
Yeah,
she lives to fight another day.
that's great.
But like everybody who dies in the movie was so excited to die. All the actors were so excited for their death scene, but I was then always so sad to see their character go, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone in the movie was so lovely, and the characters, I wrote a bunch of characters that I wanted to hang out with, and they breathed such convincing life into them
Mhm.
that it was just devastating to watch them live.
My last question for you, there's a very big distinction in the styles of daytime in the film and then nighttime. Like daytime feels like it looks like Halloween Town, and then nighttime it's dark, intense colors. Where did you find the inspiration for those two distinct styles? And then how do you create a world where the two of them can coexist?
Sure. So for me, I wanted those daytime scenes more than anything, really. Because we shot all the exteriors, like the October exteriors, in the second half of October 2022.
Mm.
Like in Illinois, like those pumpkin patches were just open. I would go there one day, I'd be like, "Can I film here when nobody's here?" And they would be like, "Yeah, sign the location release." I'd come back at like dawn and just shoot their pumpkin patch, their empty haunt attraction. And and that big pumpkin fest too. Like those scenes in the movie, I just could watch forever.
Hmm.
Like it's that vibe that I feel every October, and to be able to actually capture that vibe for once and put it in something forever was
Hmm.
such a wonderful opportunity. Like I watch those scenes and I like feel October year round, you know?
Yep,
And
absolutely.
then the colors of the night scenes, I kind of that was Alexander Lakin. That was our DP.
Mm.
I was like, I dug his reel. He was one of the only DPs in the area that like when I saw his reel wasn't all daytime stuff. Like he
Mm.
really leaned into the darkness and could light it really, really well. So him and his gaffer Chris O'Malley, um, and David Keyser, they all combined to create this incredible dark look. Like all the
Mhm.
night stuff looks so much more beautiful than I ever could have made it. And it's all because of them. And he just wanted to inject a lot of color into the movie.
Mm.
We even were going to shoot a lot of those lake house party scenes during the day, but he was like, I like we're going to be facing the windows. I don't want to just black out the windows. I want like blue moonlight coming in. Can we move all of those to nighttime? And I was like, Alex, producing is a nightmare. But I will do it. I will do it because your images are so pretty.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much and congratulations on the movie. It's so fun and it really
Thank
brought
you.
me back to working at a theme park.
That is exactly the vibe I wanted to convey. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And have fun at Horror Nights.
Oh, I will.